I think it's time to start. So welcome to today's edition of History on the Edge. I am Ivan Smirnic, I'll be the moderator today, and I'm very happy to introduce Ljubinka Škodrić, Senior Research Associate at the Institute for Contemporary History in Belgrade. She specializes in the history of education and the social history of Serbia during the Second World War. And today she will present to us a part of her research with the presentation titled Women in Serbia during the Second World War from 1941 to 1945. So as Nesa pointed out last time, it's appropriate that we have presentations focused on women's history around the 8th of March. So this is, let's say, the second in this small sequence of presentations. So Ljubinka, please.
Thank you. Dear friends and colleagues, first of all, I would like to express my gratitude to Institute for Contemporary History in Ljubljana for having me as a visiting fellowship, and to say thanks to Ivan Smiljanić, Isidora Grubački, Nesa Vrečer for their hospitality and friendship during my visit and stay here. And as you heard, my today's lecture will be about women in Serbia during the Second World War. But before I start, I will try to look back on the period of the Kingdom of Yugoslavia. And in the Kingdom of Yugoslavia, the awareness of the need of change regarding women's emancipation constantly grew. The limited modernization was achieved, and the number of educated and employed women increased. Significant shifts were observed regarding social emancipation of women, and women's engagement and expectations increased, but there is little progress according women's political rights. The Yugoslav society was affected by aspirations toward modernity, which was reflected in the change in social roles of women and in relations between the sexes, especially in the city. But unstable political situation, the economic crisis, and new world danger influenced marginalization of women's question. In Serbia, the outdated provisions of the 1844 Civil Code remained in force, and women did not get political and legal rights equal to men, especially right to vote. But in the context of whole Kingdom of Yugoslavia, we can recognize several phases in which the struggle of women for the right to vote took place. In the last pre-war phase of this struggle, the leading role in the movement for the right to vote was taken over by mainly young women, sympathizers and members of Communist Party of Yugoslavia. After the defeat in April War 1941, the Kingdom of Yugoslavia was divided into more parts than any other country in Europe. Germany, Italy, Hungary, and Bulgaria participated in that division in different forms of occupation and annexation, and Serbia was under the strict regime of German military occupation. The outbreak of war and occupation of Serbia had the impact on changes of social position of women and the emergence of new social patterns. As a heterogeneous social category, women in Serbia experienced diverse and often contrasting destinies during the Second World War, but in all cases, these experiences were different comparing to interwar period, and they had to develop new social strategies of survival. The support of women was essential for all warring parties in occupied Serbia, and This question also reflected the ideological perspectives of Serbian society during the Second World War, and as the Second World War accelerated changes within traditional family, the question of status of women and women's role in society was raised in different warring groups. Also, the policy toward women led by occupation and the collaborationist authority, as well as Ravna Gora movement and the people liberation movement, can also reflect the very nature of these warring forces. When we look on policy of occupation authority towards women, this policy was focused on economic exploitation and maintenance of peace and order. The German occupation authorities identified two groups of women who held more favorable positions than others. It was women of German origin and women who were employed and work in service of occupation authorities. But relations with occupiers could be professional and social. But the biggest attention was the relations that was intimate and sexual nature. Sexual collaboration was widespread in Europe during the Second World War, and in Serbia, the defeat in 1941 influenced the weakening of patriarchal regime and entering the women in relations with the German occupier. The occupation disrupted the family life across Europe due to the relationship between German soldiers and local women. Although this type of collaboration had no impact on war outcome, it was not ephemeral phenomenon because it strongly impacted on public opinion, and it was often punished by extrajudicial punishment, usually head shavings, and this practice was widely spread across whole Europe, and it was also practiced in Serbia, especially by the members of the Ravna Gora movement. Also, there is a thin line between sexual collaboration and prostitution, because women who entered in the intimate relationships with occupier usually expected material benefits, especially regarding supplies. But also prostitution increased in occupied Serbia. Prostitution was legalized and legally controlled, and special measures were conducted according spreading sexually transmitted disease. Also in Serbia, there were a couple brothels opened only for German soldiers. But while in the same time, while one group of women benefited from intimate relationships with occupiers and had material benefits, there was a huge group of women who were imprisoned in numerous camps on territory of Serbia, and there is whole network of camps. And when we look on female camp prisoners, we can divide three groups of prisoners. There were women imprisoned for racial reasons, as Jewish and Roma people. Women, then the women who were hostages for members of their family who participated in resistance, and the third group was women who were members of resistance movement. The occupation authorities relied on help of collaborationist forces, and collaborationist forces were mainly those politicians who had patriarchal conservative views and anti-communist views, and their politics was based on attitudes of Yugoslav national movement Zbor, and the leader of this movement, Dimitrije Ljotić, in interwar period express his expectations toward policy regarding women, and he denied the need of women's emancipation, not only in terms of women's suffrage, but also in terms of legal equality, and he insisted on increasing of their patriarchal subordination. These attitudes represented aggression in relation to the modest scale of emancipation achieved so far. But despite these expectations of women to be passive and to dedicate themselves to home and family, the occupation was the occupied society was society that women had more important roles due to the absence of men who were war prisoners or members of military detachments. So women had to take more active positions and to take some man roles in leading family and in leading households, and to became more self-confident and independent, and sometimes to for the first time to bring some independent decisions by themselves. This collision can be observed through the polemic in collaborationist press in July and August of 1941, and this polemic was led about women's roles and duties in occupied society. Vera Pešić, who was 3 times arrested before the war for intelligence service in favor of Germany, initiated this polemic with the article "The Social Responsibility of Serbian Women for the Collapse of Our State and Their Role in Our National Revival." The very title of this article suggested the sole responsibility of women for the defeat of Kingdom of Yugoslavia in April war, and Vera Pešić accused women for being enslaved to material values, avoiding having children, having tendency to enjoy themselves, and for supporting communism. Now she called women to be more active and to work in purpose of national salvation, because according to her views, this previous women attitude influence weakening of men, fighting morale of men, and as a final consequence had war defeat of Kingdom of Yugoslavia. But this, on contrary on her views, there is several responses of members of Zbor in this polemic, and they all appeal to women to be passive, to devote themselves to the house and household, and to support collaborationist authorities. This polemic reflected the existing profiles on the scene of occupied society, and on the one side we had occupation authorities whose spokesman was Vera Pešić, and they wanted women to be more active in purpose to contribute to Nazi victory, and on the second hand there was collaborationists who wanted women to devote themselves to the house and to support collaborationist authorities. But both of this group wanted to gain support of women and to form a new women's society. And in that purpose, they needed the support of pre-war women's associations. That was the reason that there was strong pressure on pre-war women's association, especially on Cycle of Serbian Sisters, which was the biggest and conservative women's organization. And in August of 1941, there was an article, Our Ladies. In this article, women's organizations were criticized for insufficient activity in providing assistance to most endangered, but also for denying support to the collaborationist authorities. In fact, especially the Cycle of Serbian Sisters was very active in gathering support, especially for refugees, but they didn't have opportunity to present their work in press and to respond on these accusations. The leader of Cycle of Serbian Sisters, Delfa Ivanić, even tried to intervene to Dimitrije Ljotić and to present the stance of Cycle of Serbian Sisters, but it didn't have the effects. And in 1941, there was complete ban of work of Cycle of Serbian Sisters and confiscation of their property. Because they didn't support the intention to form a new women's society under the occupation. In the same time, when this polemic was led, it was very it was period very with great tensions, because there was uprising in Serbia and defeat in April War, as persecution of Serbian population in neighboring territories, as well as long-term political and social dissatisfaction in Yugoslav country, led to strong insurgent mood. The uprising in 1941 was had the biggest support of population during the first period when was the period of cooperation of two resistance movements. First resistance movement was royalist Chetniks Ravna Gora movement, which was led by Colonel Dragoljub Mihajlović, and the second resistance movement was partisan People's Liberation Movement, which was led by Communist Party of Yugoslavia and its General Secretary Josip Broz Tito. But this cooperation of these two movements was short-term, and it was there was in question of two different movements with different strategy, different nature, different war goals. But during the cooperation in uprising 1941, neither of this movement discussed the possibility of including women into combat units. It was opposite to Serbian national tradition, where it was usual women's support to men who took part in battles, but also during Balkan War and First World War, women fought in the units of Serbian army. The two most famous women from this period were Milunka Savić and one Slovenian woman from Maribor, Antonija Javornik. I think probably today there are women that had most honors and medals for their war contribution. I think both of them had about 12 medals for their bravery, and they all got sergeant rank in Serbian army. When we look on policy of Ravna Gora movement towards women, we must have in mind that the absence of comprehensive political and ideological program influenced that Ravna Gora movement did not put much attention on political issues, especially issues of women's rights, and Ravna Gora movement did not put much effort in attracting women and took the conservative patriarchal stand that did not differ from the collaboration authorities, as they both perceived the women exclusively as wives and mothers. In the most important documents of this movement, there is no mention of women and the possibility of giving them the equal rights. And the Ravna Gora movement usually consider themselves as a military male movement, and they had attitudes toward their aggressive expression of masculinity, and usually they create their politics in opposition to communists. But despite this fact, during uprising of 1941, there were few women who participated in units of Ravna Gora movement, and usually their participation was a result of disputes with local partisans units, and that's why they became anti-communist, but also wanted to participate in battle, and they had strong patriotic feelings. Two of them were very famous. One was the teacher Milka Baković, who left her memories on that period, memories of one Ravna Gora woman, and the second one was Jelena Kalabić-Đorić, and both of them participated in battles during 1941, but after that they were transferred on another duties, mainly propaganda work, or they work as couriers for Ravna Gora movement. Except these cases, there is one extraordinary phenomenon. It is about organization of black scarves, or in Serbian, crne šamije. Black scarf or crna šamija was a type of scarf that women wore in Serbia as a sign of mourning for deceased closest members of family. And this organization was spontaneous and self-made, and it was consisted of women whose the closest members of family were killed in October 1941 in reprisals in Kraljevo and Kragujevac. The main goal of this organization was resistance and revenge, and constantly they became part of Ravna Gora movement, and they became a unit of Black Scarves and part of Šumadija group of corps, and for the Ravna Gora movement they performed the courier duties, intelligence task, and collecting of ammunition, and they were very brave. But insufficient Ravna Gora politics over women led also during 1943 to some changes, and the loss of Allied support during 1943 and the loss of support among population forced members of Ravna Gora movement to try to better organize the basing point of their ideology. The leaders of Ravna Gora movement realized that support of women to this movement was insufficient, and they tried to attract women, but still their addresses to women give women modest positions and assigned. More active politics was conducted during 1944 when there is two women's Ravna Gora organizations was formed, and initial moment for forming this organization was Ba Congress of Ravna Gora movement in January 1944, and after that first organization was formed. It was Yugoslav Organization of Ravna Gora movement or UORA, and this organization was formed with the mission to unite women and pre-war women association in order to support Ravna Gora movement, but their main purpose was propaganda for Ravna Gora movement and propaganda of previous conservative views towards women. So this organization wasn't very popular in Serbia, and during April and May of 1944, the second organization was formed. It was Women's Ravna Gora organization of the Sanitet. The purpose of this organization was medical service, but in contrast to UORA, Žros was part of military organization of Ravna Gora movement. And in the same time, two Ravna Gora organizations existed, and it made a lot of confusion and witness of insufficiently clear politics towards women, and it was resolved by abolition of UORA, and Žros becoming the only women's organization. And there is significant changes regarding the purpose of this organization, because it was promoted like an organization in which women gain opportunity to become equal with men, but it was belated reaction in the last moments of war, and it didn't had a lot of chance to be realized in practice. Despite politics of occupation, collaborationist and Ravna Gora movement, the only warring faction that had positive attitude toward women was People's Liberation Movement. It was the result of this politics was the fact that during the interwar period, the number of women in Communist Party of Yugoslavia grew, and a lot of them had to join the People's Liberation Movement because their lives were very in danger on the occupied territory. But at the same time, leadership of partisan movement did not plan and that women will take such a huge part in the partisan units, and they planned to involve women in background activities, usually as leaders of party activities and in the cities, and as a help regarding sanity. So there is one part of women who were members of movement who had to join the units, but the large part of women who joined units were women who were not communist and were not communist sympathizer, but only wanted to participate in struggle for freedom. During uprising of 1941, this politic was insufficiently clear, and usually local partisan commanders had to decide whether they will admit or not women in their units, and they usually tried to send them in medical units or to work as to gather help for units, but this politics was short-term, and in the beginning of 1942, the partisan movement was in crisis, and one of the result was decision in February 1942 in letter to Edward Kardelja and Ivo Lola Ribar, Josip Broz expressed decision that women should be admitted in partisan units, not only as nurses, but also as fighters. This decision coincided with a similar decision in Soviet Union, where women could become volunteers in Red Army, but also this decision was pragmatic because it was made in the period of great crisis of partisan movement. But still, the huge problem in partisan units, beside decision to admit women in unit, it was a tendency that women have a role of nurses. They usually wanted to be fighters, and it was a reasonable decision because position of fighter was higher in the hierarchy of fighting forces, and usually persons who were nurses had multiple duties, and they in the same time participated in combats and had the duty to take care of wounded soldiers. Beside that, in order to prove their ability to become fighters, women usually express significant bravery, and they were extremely good fighters in the partisan units. But there is also one reason why they was decided to fight till the end of their efforts. It's because in occupation and collaborationist propaganda, women were usually, partisan women were usually described like brutal, promiscuous, unmoral, and this attitude was used as motives to conduct sexual abuse of captured female partisans. The horrors of arrest, which included the danger of sexual abuse and certain death, influenced that large number of female partisans, when they were threatened arrest, decided to commit suicide. And the very interesting thing is that despite all these differences in policy toward women in partisan detachments, the symbol of partisan resistance in Serbia became one woman. It was Božidarka Damjanović-Kika. She was deputy of political commissar of the Kosmoj partisan detachment. Before the war, she wasn't even member or sympathizer of Communist Party of Yugoslavia. She joined the detachment in order to fight for freedom, but constantly she became the symbol of resistance, and even members of Ravna Gora movement were afraid of Kika. They thought she was very brutal but very capable, and they gave there some attributes like she was Hajduk, capable to exist in different places, that she knew everything, but her strategy of resistance was very interesting because she had good connections on her territory. She usually wore women village clothes, and she could disguise like regular village women, and she enjoyed huge support of village women in Kosmaj and central Serbia, and she was a kind of role model for young girls from the village. So when we look the participation of women in the national, in people's liberation movement, we can say that it represented a breakthrough according to past, but it was very important to partisan movement because it expanded the recruitation base of partisans and also confirm their commitment to gender equality. The second important thing was that regarding Serbia, the majority of women population were women from village, and they were usually insufficiently educated and primitive, so usually nobody tried to address them and spoke to them, and it was changed by Communist Party of Yugoslavia already in uprising 1941 with partisan units. There were groups of women who held meetings with village women, tried to educate them and organize them in order to help partisan units. These groups were forerunners of Anti-Fascist Front of Women or AFŽ. AFŽ was formed in Bosanski Petrovac during 1942, but in Serbia during 1943 and 1944 there was only local county committees form, and Serbian Committee for AFŽ was formed only after the liberation of Serbia in January 1944. But after the occupation and during the liberation, the AFŽ greatly contributed to the strengthening of the position of new communist authorities. Also, the AFG has a significant role in practicing new rights of women, because after the liberation of country, the promise of full recognition of women's political and civil rights was fulfilled. So that's about all. Thank you for your attention. I hope you have some questions.
Thank you, Ljubinka. I think it was a very interesting presentation. I think we all learned something about a topic that's very rarely discussed here and that the majority of us have pretty much no idea about. So now I open the floor for questions. Please.
Hi, very interesting presentation. I'm recently starting to analyzing the role of women into right-wing movement, especially. But in terms of sociological, backstage of what you show today. What are the conditions of participation of women in this political but also military movement? So they were maybe connected to some men already involved as a wife or as a mother or etc. Are they connected with men already there, or what was the condition of them to be part of this movement, if you are aware of this? And the second question is, what was their role in propaganda?
When I spoke about polemics in Collaborationist press in 1941, there is one woman from Zbor movement, which was extreme right movement. Her name was Nebesna Jojkić, and she was the leader of Zbor youth women group. They didn't have a women group, but also for young women. And she participated in that debate, and she was also active in giving help to soldiers that was wounded and that was in hospitals, and that was they were members of Zbor. But after that, I didn't trace her, and she wasn't very active. And she didn't have any personal relationships in Zbor movement. She wasn't married, but there is one extraordinary case. It was a case of physician Dragojla Popović Ostojić. She was also member of Zbor, and but her husband wasn't member. But two of them became directors of, let me say, Institute for Force Education of Youth, something like that. It was institute formed in Smederevska Palanka, and its purpose was because among partisans there was very young boys and girls, and in order to save them and re-educate them, this institute was formed, and she with her husband was director of this institute, but she had more militant views than her husband.
about propaganda? What was the...
Only Nebesna Jojkić participated in propaganda, but only in the brief period. She published only one article, and there is no other women in propaganda. Usually in this polemic, male members of Zbor answered on questions about women position.
Thank you.
We have a question on Zoom, so maybe to give that one advantage from Jovana Mihajlović-Trboc. Can you tell us more about the crisis of partisan movement in 1942 that pushed Tito to write to Kardelj and Ivo Ribar that women should be adopted to partisans also as combatants? Was the problem low level of mobilization into partisans, and did participation of women significantly helped in it?
The main reason was the crash of Užice Republic and the crisis of partisan movement, especially in Serbia, because there were great reprisals in this period, in the end of 1941 and beginning of 1942. There is estimated that about 30,000 people were shot in reprisals in Serbia during this period, and that also influenced on lesser level of recruitment in the units. So this was the period when partisan units were persecuted in different parts of country, in Serbia, in Montenegro, in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So this was the reason they didn't have enough soldiers, and the population was in fear that they will become victims of reprisals.
Okay. Other questions?
Thank you very much. I'm not an expert on the topic, but anyways, through your talk, it seemed like this heterogeneity of women that is otherwise obviously present is a bit in the background. So I wanted to push it a little bit more in this direction of intersectionality in terms of, you seem to talk about women, and that's my impression, that are more or less young, that are not necessarily from poorer segments of society, and they seem like they come from urban places. Could you give us some more nuance on this sort of diversity of women? What about the elderly women, or what about women coming from the very top, the elite segments of society, or what about these very rural? I don't know, I'm just sort of poking into this direction to see more of a diversity within this category of women.
Yes, the members of resistance were mostly younger women, because they could participate, they have strength and health to participate, but they are not from, let me say, they weren't wealthy. They usually had origin from village. And when we look some, let me say, higher classes of women, there was diverse situation, but we can observe it through position of leader of president of Serbian Circle of Serbian Sisters, Delfa Ivanić. She didn't agree to support collaborationist forces, and that's why she was threatened to be arrested, and that's why the Circle of Serbian Sisters was banned. and on the other hand, we can observe the activity of Krista Đorđević. She was very influential. She was the wife of a well-known doctor, and during the Second World War, she participated in communist resistance. She wasn't member of partisans, but she worked as a courier for the need of this movement, and after the war it was planned for her to became president of AFŽ of Belgrade, but it wasn't realized. So when we see this let me say elder but wealthier women, they also participated in some kind of resistance.
Anything else? No. Maybe I would just like to ask about Antonia Javornik. I think I heard her name before, but maybe if you have some additional information about her, since she's from Maribor. And
yes, Antonia Javornik was from Maribor, and she joined her uncle who was in military service in Serbia. He was first in the Austro-Hungarian army, and he was dissatisfied, and he was transferred to Serbia, and she joined him, and because her family in Maribor could be endangered, she changed her name. Her name in Serbia was Natalia Bjelajac. And with that name, she participated in Balkan War and First World War, and she stayed in Serbia after that in period during the Second World War. She was also arrested and sometime in Banjica concentration camp, and she died in Belgrade, I think, in the middle of 70s, something like that.
mm, and was she remembered at all at that time, or what she did?
She was one of the women who were interviewed for the book Woman from Thessalonica Front Speaks. She, Milunka Savić, Sofia Jovanović, and a couple of other women were quite famous, but not as today. Today she's more famous than during the socialist period.
Okay. Anything else? Someone thought of something? Going once, going twice. I guess we're done. Okay, so let's end at this point then. I would just like to promote the next lecture in History on the Edge. So it will be on the 25th of March, so that is Tuesday. Usually it's on Wednesdays, but this is an exception. So the topic will be conspiracy talk in ordinary people's everyday experiences, and it will be given by Gwenaëlle Beauvoir. So thank you for attending today. Join us again next time, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.